Alright, so I'm going to try something a little different today. This is a surprise video. So, yesterday, when this goes up, we got the news about the Bad Batch Star Wars animated series for Lucasfilm and Disney Plus. And this was honestly something that I had heard rumblings about, heard some rumors about. There were some really good inside sources who were reporting that this was going to happen. And honestly, I was a little skeptical about it, but now I'm really excited to see this and see how it's going to unfold. So let's dive in a little bit into what exactly this means, then we'll kind of talk about some of my thoughts. Might cut this up a little bit, honestly, kind of doing this a little more free flow, something a little different. So expect these kinds of videos. If there's a news piece that kind of drops that I want to talk about, I'll post more about this on my Twitter as well. So make sure to follow me there at Sean Talks SW. But in the meantime, let's look at this. So this was announced yesterday. They're doing a Bad Batch TV series based on the arc from the season 7 of Clone Wars, so of the same name. It's going to follow the elite and experimental clones of the Bad Batch introduced in the Clone Wars as they find their way in a rapidly changing galaxy in the immediate aftermath of the Clone War. I'm really happy that we're going to be seeing the aftermath of the Clone War from a clone perspective. I mean, obviously, we saw Rex and Ahsoka and how they dealt with the events of Order 66 and the Siege of Mandalore, but to see how a squadron of clones and defective clones at that, how they're dealing with this change of the Empire. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in speculation, but I feel like these guys aren't going to be affiliated with the Empire when this series airs, and I think that's going to be a really interesting angle to kind of discuss and talk about. So, obviously, the members of the Bad Batch include Hunter, Crosshair, Tech, Wrecker, and then Echo will be coming with them, as we saw in the arc, so he'll be included as well. And as I said, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they're dealing with the post-Clone War era, and it says here they'll be taking on daring mercenary missions as they struggle to stay afloat and find a new purpose. So I think what's going to be really interesting about that, and I talked about this a little bit on my Twitter, is that I don't think that the Empire is going to keep the Bad Batch around like they do with some of the other clones. So we know that in canon, at least, and I think they did this in Legends a little bit too, but as they transitioned to the Empire kept the clone army around for a little while and then just slowly retired the troops off. But here, it seems like I think they're going to keep clones in service for a while, but we do know that the Empire isn't one for defective clones or defective people or even like alien species in their ranks. That's why pretty much every single member of the Empire is a humanoid, and that's why Grand Admiral Thrawn, of course, is such the exception to that rule, but that's why in the original trilogy and Rebels and everything else that we've seen, every Imperial, troop, officer, whatever you have, is humans. They don't really allow aliens or defective people into the ranks of the Empire, part of what kind of makes them evil. So I think that having the Bad Batch be these squad of clones that are having like these experimental, defectiveness or differences is going to be really interesting and kind of push them to the side. So they're going to be looking to find new purpose, as it says, taking on missionary missions and struggling to stay afloat. As for arcs and stuff, they really don't talk about any stories here. We know it's coming in 2021, and then, of course, it's going to be executively produced by Dave Filoni, which is awesome. I think he'll be slightly more involved in this series than he was with Resistance, but expect him to not be as involved with the show as he was with Clone Wars or Rebels. He's really got his plate full with Mandalorian right now, and possibly, if the rumors are correct, a Rebel sequel series that's either live action or animation. So right now, I wouldn't expect too much involvement from Dave Filoni, but you never know, and I think that the Clone Wars and the clones have a special place in his heart, so maybe we'll see more involvement than I would expect. Let's talk a little bit just about where I think the show is going. So obviously, as I mentioned, it's going to be taking place post-Clone War. They're going to be doing mercenary missions. They're going to be very much on their own, not a part of the Empire. It'll be interesting to see if the Bad Batch had the chips in their head and are going to be affiliated with Order 66 and how they're handling that. As far as we know, they weren't even stationed with Jedi regularly, so that might not be an issue. The host of the Kessel Run Transmissions podcast, so Corey Van Dyke and Noah Outlaw, those two guys reported on this scoop a really long time ago, actually, about a month and a half ago, and they were talking about how this was going to happen. They also tweeted today and hinted that the characters of Ahsoka Tano, Captain Rex, Commander Wolf, and Commander Cody are all going to show up in the Bad Batch series, and it's going to be really interesting to see how those characters are doing. I'm not super excited about Ahsoka and Rex. More so Ahsoka. I feel like she should be more on her own by this point. I'm really excited to see Rex actually post Clone Wars. Obviously we see how his arc ends at the Siege of Mandalore, but I want to see what his next steps are. We know that Wolf eventually gets his chip removed and becomes part of Rex's crew as we meet him in Rebels. And we do know that Wolf was, we believe at least, involved in Order 66 based on his reactions in Rebels. Also, we know that he was with Plo Koon during that battle. As for Cody, I think that's the thing that's most intriguing to me right now is obviously we don't know what happened to Commander Cody post Order 66. As far as I would guess, I think that Cody joined the Empire, probably rose through the ranks. There are a lot of different options you could take his character, but I really want to see that story of why Rex and maybe even the Bad Batch probably encountered Cody and then tried to convince him to remove his chip and join them, and then Cody ultimately declines or turns against the clones in some way or some other, situation. I'm really excited mostly for that. Other than that, I don't really have a ton to say on the Bad Batch. I liked their arc in Clone Wars. I think they're really cool characters. I'm excited to see what comes of them in this show. If I had to guess, I think this show's only going to be about a season or two, just like Resistance. I don't think there's a lot of room here for really expansive growth for these characters, unlike Rebels and Clone Wars, where you're covering a much larger time span and you've got overarching, character arcs for these guys. I think that this series will be much shorter. I would assume moving forward, a lot of Disney animation stuff is going to be shorter, especially if the Rebel sequel series is going to be live action. With Resistance only being 2 seasons, I would guess that this is only going to be about a season or 2 as well. I think that we're going to start seeing animated series being pushed out a little faster and a little shorter runs, just to kind of tell different stories in a galaxy far, far away. I'm not sure if I agree with that entirely, but I think it's at least one way for us to get more stories in the animated field. And as everybody knows, I'm a big Dave Filoni fan, and Filoni we trust. But yeah, no, that's basically my thoughts on everything regarding the Bad Batch. I just wanted to do this short video, kind of talk about everything. And as I said, releases in 2021 on Disney+. I'm really excited for the trailer, really excited for any more information that we're going to get. I'll make sure to cover that on my Twitter. As I said, make sure to follow me there at SeanTalksSW. If you liked this video, give it a like, subscribe, leave a comment. I post other more edited and sort of longer form videos every Friday, so make sure to check out that. Last week, I covered The Mandalorian Season 2 and my thoughts on that. This upcoming week, I have a video on the High Republic. So thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.